Welcome to the TalentGrow Show, where you can get actionable, results-oriented insight and advice on how to take your leadership, communication, and people skills to the next level and become the kind of leader people want to follow. And now, your host and leadership development strategist, Halelly Azulay.
Welcome back, Talent Growers. This is the last episode of 2018. I'm Halelly Azulay, your leadership development strategist here at TalentGrow, and this is the TalentGrow Show. Today we have a solo episode where I will share some of the highlights of the show's year. 2018 has been an eventful year in my business for sure, in TalentGrow, but we're going to talk about the podcast. I'll share the highlights of 2018 with you, and I'll share what the top 5 most downloaded episodes were. I'll also explain why it's a little bit tricky to know because the numbers are a little bit different on different outlets where the show is shared. We'll talk a little bit about that. And I'll also share with you my personal favorite of the year, which is not fun to choose in the sense that it's like asking a parent what their favorite child is. You're not supposed to choose favorites. And it's hard for me, but I will. I will choose a favorite and I will share what that was with you and why. And we'll talk a little bit about the plans for 2019. And of course, every Talent Grow Show episode ends with an actionable tip. And this one will be no different. I will share an actionable tip for you, talent growers, what you can do right away and all throughout 2019 for sure that can help you be happier and a better leader too. All right. So shall we dig in? Let's do it. All right, talent growers, this is the highlights reel of 2018. 2018 was a very big year for the show because you might recall that before 2018, the show used to come out twice a month. And in 2018, I decided to double down and to start producing the show twice as often, every week. We went to a weekly format, and every Tuesday, I released an episode. And they averaged about 3 interview episodes a month and 1 solo episode a month. So we started having more solo shows and, of course, more shows in general. And that meant a lot more work, double the work, and also more costs. But it also produced good results, which was what I was hoping for. And we almost tripled our weekly download numbers between what they were at the beginning of 2018 and what they were at the end of 2018. So I wanted to grow the show, and this definitely helped me to do that. Also, in 2018, we had a couple of big celebrations. We hit our 3rd anniversary in March, and we also had our 100th episode in August. So those were 2 big celebrations. You can check out those episodes if you're curious to hear some more highlights and reflections on those episodes. Well, we had so many changes in 2018. We also got a brand new look. We completely rebranded the show, got a fresh new logo and brand new show art, and all of the episode art was upgraded and changed. And I don't know if I shared it back then, but I'll tell you now that I'm very proud that the branding was done by my son, Tal. He's a very talented graphic designer. He's also a musician. And he created this for me, and I hope you like it. I've loved it. In 2018, we had 14 solos. Some of them were Ask Halelly, and some of them were sort of like mini trainings. Topics like how to say no, how to give feedback, how to network better, and even how to rekindle your love for your job. We had a lot of guests, people like psychologists, authors, coaches, professors, neuroscientists, and even a former fighter pilot, a former opera singer, a Broadway producer, and a rock star musician. They talked about topics like white space, polarity thinking, the hashtag #MeToo movement, neuroscience, purpose in the workplace, networking, storytelling, and vocal intelligence, among many other topics. So this is the highlights reel of 2018. And now I'm ready to reveal the top 5 most downloaded episodes of 2018. But first, I want to share with you about how downloads are counted, because this is actually something that is super tricky and I don't really like how this works. I hope it changes in the future. But you may not know this, but we have a host platform. Every podcaster has to choose one to use. The one that I use is Libsyn. which is short for Liberated Syndications. And on Libsyn, I can see the numbers of the download numbers. And in fact, they even have it split into downloads and then unique downloads, which is completely confusing. But those are the numbers that I'm going to use to tell you about the top 5. But I also share the podcast on a lot of other platforms. So for example, on Spotify, those numbers and how many people listen and download on Spotify is not counted in the numbers on Libsyn. Also, I share it on iTunes, actually called Apple Podcasts. And they don't tell me how many people downloaded or subscribe to my podcast. They don't share that with podcasters. I also share the podcast on YouTube, and I can see the numbers of views on YouTube, and those are different. I also share a lot of the video in the Facebook platform, and I can see the numbers there, and those are not the same as the ones in Libsyn, and the list goes on. It's super confusing. So when someone asks me, what are your download numbers? I'm like, I don't know. I don't know what they are. But I sure would like to know the actual final number. That would help a lot, especially because my goal is to bring on sponsors, and sponsors always want to know, what are your numbers? And I'm always, well, let's see. I can try to count it up for you, but I don't really actually know the actual numbers. Anyway, just thought I'd share that with you. So according to my host Libsyn, which is where the bulk of the downloads are counted, these are the top 5 most downloaded 2018 released episodes. Okay, so these are not over the life of the podcast, but these are the episodes from 2018 in order of the most downloads on Libsyn. And I'm going to start actually from the 5th most downloaded, and then the 4th, 3rd, 2nd, and then the 1st most downloaded episode will be last on this countdown. After this, I'll share my favorite. All right, you ready? Drum roll. So number 5, most downloaded episode was episode 95, Leadership, Goal Setting, and Free Will, the Psychology of Motivating Your Team to Success with Dr. Edwin Locke. And Dr. Edwin Locke is a pioneer in the field of goal setting and job satisfaction and leadership. He is a very seasoned professor, and now Professor Emeritus from University of Maryland. He has greatly enriched our understanding of motivation and changed the way that many leaders think about their roles. So in this episode, I was so gratified that he agreed to come on to the show and talk about his goal-setting theory, which he co-created with Gary Latham. We talked about how to set rational, achievable goals for your team, what many leaders misunderstand about extrinsic motivation, and which visionary questions leaders should ask themselves to inspire their team and to ensure job satisfaction. This episode was a little bit unusual in that it ran long. Most of my episodes, I try to keep them to about 30 minutes. And this one I allowed to go longer because there was just so much in there. I couldn't cut it out. And it was about 45 or 50 minutes long. So we even talked about some of the ideas in his latest book, which is called The Illusion of Determinism. And even what did visionary leader Steve Jobs get right that Elon Musk seems to be getting wrong? This was all on episode 95. Let's listen to a tiny snippet.
A great life would be if you can combine the 3 kinds of goals. Love things you're doing either in the job and outside the job, like hobbies and the field of art. Do well in some reasonable standard tied to your own capacity. And third, do things that make your future more secure and better. So we're hypothesizing the best combination is all 3 of these together.
Now, the 4th most downloaded 2018 episode is episode 81, How to Step Outside Your Comfort Zone and Unlock Your Leadership Potential with Professor Andy Malinsky. So when you find yourself in a tough situation in the workplace, the most effective solution often lies outside of your comfort zone. And in this episode 81 of the TalentGrow Show, author, professor, and consultant Andy Malinsky talked about why it's so important to step outside our comfort zones. And he shared the 5 key challenges that stand in our way and 3 great tools that he recommends for implementing his advice. We talked about simple and practical steps that you can take to overcome the difficulty of breaking out of your comfort zone and how you can become a more effective leader and professional as a result. I got a lot of insights from this episode, and I really do feel strongly. In fact, in my book, Employee Development on a Shoestring, I kind of open it by referring to a very similar concept that Andy talked about in this episode, which is what is your comfort zone and how all learning and growth happens outside your comfort zone. So that's episode 81. Let's take a listen to a short snippet from that one. There's tons of benefits, and it's really important to go outside your comfort zone, but that lots of people don't do it. Why are people not doing it? And why should we rethink that?
You do want to pick your spots. You want to pick and choose. But if you want to grow and learn and develop, if you're taking on a new role, a new responsibility, a new job, if you're at sort of a key transition point, that's where stepping outside your comfort zone becomes critical. You're an entrepreneur starting that company. You've been an individual contributor. Now you're a manager. You've been tapped as a high potential person, but you don't really know how to manage or lead. Or maybe you're a leader and now you have to do things like, create a vision and inspire people, and you have to public speak and you're terrified of public speaking. Whatever it is, there are always challenges at these sort of like critical inflection points in our career. And I think that's why to grow and learn and develop and succeed in these contexts, that's why stepping outside your comfort zone becomes really important.
The third most downloaded episode of 2018 that was released in 2018 is episode 102. And I'm super happy because it's a solo episode. Yay! They love me. They really love me. This episode is, of course, not with a guest. It is with me. And I share the 6 principles of effective communication. Look, communication is super hard. We all have a need to communicate. And we all have challenges with communication. And this episode builds on actually my most popular blog post on my blog. And I figured let's put it into audio mode. And sure enough, it has become one of the most downloaded episodes. So that was a good gamble on my part. And that means that it's adding value and a topic that a lot of people are interested in. Let's take a short listen to a snippet from this one. We all have relationships in which we communicate with ease. And we all have relationships in which we feel like we're walking on eggshells, like we're always having to choose our words carefully. We want to try not to offend the person or make them become defensive. It's very natural for us to have to communicate in a very different way with different people. We have different chemistry with them. They have different personality types. So there isn't really a one size fits all in terms of how to communicate effectively. And there's really never any way for us to fully level the playing field. But it's also possible to reduce the likelihood of defensiveness and to increase our success when we communicate with just about anyone, anywhere. And in my work, I help people communicate better. And it is never really something that is simple enough to reduce to the 3 this or the 6 that. But here are 6 principles that I do think are key to help you communicate more effectively. In 2018, the number 2 most downloaded episode was episode 104, Wired to Connect, the Neuroscience of Team Leadership with Dr. Britt Andreatta. I was really happy to bring Dr. Britt on. She shares such interesting insights that come from neuroscience research about what differentiates high-performing teams from the rest. She talked about a new and comprehensive model that she's created to analyze and synthesize the motivations, skills, and dynamics that make peak team performance possible. She calls it the 4 gates to peak team performance. We talk about her groundbreaking model, and she digs into the fascinating topics like neural synchrony and what that even means. What are basic human needs and motivations that drive us towards teamwork? The significant differences between cooperation and collaboration. What skills you need to hone to successfully collaborate with others, and her take on some cutting-edge research on the development of human consciousness that's making waves in the leadership space. So that was a cool episode. I really appreciate the kind of work that Dr. Andreatta is doing. And of course, you know me, I'm a neuroscience geek. So whenever I can bring on a neuroscience expert, I'm in my happy space. Should we take a quick listen to a snippet from that one? Let's do.
One of the things that I found is if a member of the team is not at full capacity, the team cannot be at its full capacity. So the intro to my book is, I always thought there was no I in team. Actually, it's all about the eyes. All the individuals have to feel those things, and then collectively they can make magic together.
And they are each unique and different, so they need different things.
Yes.
All right, talent growers, the number one most downloaded 2018 episode is episode 96, How to Network Like a Rock Star, Advice for Authentic Networking, from rock musician Sean Hurwitz. Sean's one of my friends, so I feel super happy that his episode is the most downloaded episode. And he's a cool guy. He travels the world playing on huge stages as a musician and producer and a guitarist for Enrique Iglesias, Smash Mouth, and Gin Blossoms, among many others. And he is a master networker, let me tell you. And in this episode, he shares how he makes time, even though he's just all over the world, constantly getting on and off airplanes, getting on and off stages, and a busy guy. And he still is amazing at building and maintaining relationships. And he shares some of his insights and his tips on this episode. So I hope that you enjoy revisiting that one. If you didn't listen to it, definitely take a listen. 96 was the most downloaded episode of 2018. Let's listen to a tiny snippet from it. I know you do it naturally now, but I want you to help us deconstruct some of your tactics so that we can also learn from you and do more of that. So for example, you've told me that you stay in touch with everyone, that you connect with people and then you keep the connection going. And you know people all over the world that are fans, that are other musicians, that are people in the business, and you really do keep in touch. So what are some of the things that help you do that? Because I have to say, this is something that's been always very hard for me.
I really take advantage in a fun way of social media to really, really, really connect personally, one-on-one with people.
Well, those are the official numbers according to you, according to people who downloaded and listened. But I have so many cool episodes in 2018, and I thought, which would be my top favorite or my number one? And it's hard. I love them all. I'm proud of them. I'm actually pretty choosy. You may not know this, but I get pitched by a lot of people who want to be on the show. And I turn down a great number of them because I'm always thinking about what will be the most value-adding content and who will be the most energetic or interesting guest to bring on. And I make sure that I at least try to screen out people that sound like they're dull or that their message is not that unique, because I want this to be so valuable for you. But personally, I also sometimes have people that are idols of mine, people that I greatly admire. And sometimes they want to be on the show and sometimes they're too busy. They're too big. They're too big for me. So I was really gratified and happy to have landed this guest. My favorite guest of 2018 was Daniel Pink on episode 83 on the scientific secrets of perfect timing. Daniel Pink is someone I greatly admire. He's a best-selling author, a speaker that is in high demand. He speaks at huge conferences, garners huge speaking fees. He's a very busy guy. And I'm really happy that he came on to the TalentGrow Show. And in this episode, he talked about why timing is a crucial element of productivity and performance based on his latest best-selling book, When: The Scientific Secrets of Perfect Timing. And he talks about how our performance is really actually greatly affected by the time of day alone. And so even just thinking about when to do something can help you do it better. How you can arrange your schedule and your team's schedule in a way that takes advantage of your peak performance times, and why our lives are really just a stream of when decisions and how to base these decisions on science rather than intuition or guesswork. So I hope that you'll take a re-listen or a first listen to episode 83, which was the one that I picked for my favorite of 2018. Let's listen to a short segment.
We tend to think that timing is an art. When we make our when decisions, we make them based on intuition and guesswork. That's the wrong way to make them, because there's this rich, pretty spectacular body of science out there that allows us to make better, smarter, shrewder decisions about when. So we think timing is an art, but it's really a science.
And why do you think our listeners, since they mostly work within large organizations, are developing their own leadership skills, why should they care?
Well, they should care because they're making huge numbers of when decisions in their own life. When should I start a project? When should I abandon a project that's not working? When should I get worried that a project isn't going the way it should be? Our lives are awash in decisions about timing and when to do things, and we can make them in a better way.
Well, that does it for our highlights of 2018. 2018 has been a busy year, and 2019 promises to be just as busy, although at least it won't include doubling the output because we're going to keep it at weekly for now. And I always love to hear from you. What do you like to hear from me? And which guests do you want? What topics do you want? What solo episodes would you like? What questions do you have for an Ask Halelly episode? I really need to know because, like I said, I'm always thinking about what will add the most value for you as listeners. And if you don't tell me, then I'm guessing, aren't I? Well, before we end, we always have an actionable tip at the end of every TalentGrow Show episode, and this one is no different. So my tip for you that you can implement right away, and I hope that you will, but I hope that you'll also think about it daily or at least weekly in 2019, is to savor the good. This sounds a little bit cliche and maybe even woo-woo, and I am not a woo-woo person, but I do notice that a lot of time we spend our energy and our focus on what's wrong, on what's broken, on what's annoying, on what's irritating, on what needs doing and what's not done and what needs fixing. And it's okay. It's okay to think about those things too, but don't forget to notice what's good, to notice what's right, to notice what's beautiful, to notice beauty in even mundane things. Beauty is all around us. Excellence is all around us. And goodness is all around us. I really believe that. And I really notice it. I do tend to notice it as maybe part of my nature, but I also tend to notice it on purpose, intentionally, mindfully. I try to see the good and I try to share it actually so that other people also can benefit from noticing, seeing, experiencing the good. So that's my tip for you. Savor the good, notice it, share it with others. And as a leader, when you do this with the people that work with you and for you, you're going to become a much more inspirational leader. And people are going to be much more interested in following you. Well, here at the TalentGrow Show, we're all about developing leaders that people actually want to follow. So this is my tip for you. I appreciate you so much. I am so glad you listened to this show. I really want to give you lots of value and make this show something that helps you raise your game, develops you as a leader, and is something that you're interested in even sharing with others to help them along their development journey. I'm Halelly Azulay, your leadership development strategist here at TalentGrow. This has been a great year on the TalentGrow Show. Thanks for your listening and your attention. And until the next time, until next year, make today great.
Thanks for listening to the TalentGrow Show, where we help you develop your talent to become the kind of leader that people want to follow. For more information, visit talentgrow.com.